Welcome back to the Warwick F1 show. We're back for another week. There is no race going on. It's a triple header, so we're getting all revved up for the Americas and that whole process. But this week, as we consistently prove week on week, we can improve F1. So we're going to have an entire podcast dedicated to improving F1 using rules, things, regulations from other motorsport categories. F1, obviously not the only motorsport, contrary to maybe some people's beliefs. We have IndyCar, you've got WEC, MotoGP, things like that, and we're going to look all around them and try and improve F1 by adopting some of the rules, or at least discussing it as well. As ever, I'm here with Will and Chinmay. How have you been this last week?
Ill.
Yeah, it's not fun, is it?
No, it's not, no. But no, it's been alright. Watched the cricket, India, Pakistan. Possibly one of the worst performances I've seen in the Cricket World Cup so far, but again, this is a F1 podcast, so I won't go too much into it. But yeah, it's been alright.
Yeah, ill. Slowly getting there.
It's just fresh as flu. I'm just about recovered, so if you two might maybe ill again, I'm going to be really annoyed. They're just going to be trying to cough on me for the rest of the podcast. But no, Will, you went to the American football, didn't you?
I did. I've been the last 2 weekends to the London Games. It was very fun. That probably hasn't helped my illness. Sat outside with a load of people in London.
Yeah, and you had the most fun you could with the Ravens Titans.
Yeah,
it's not a great London game, not compared to last week.
It actually was probably a better game, to be honest, to watch. But anyway, as we said, this is an F1
podcast.
F1.
We're just dedicating it to other sports as well. So, as we were saying, we're going to be improving F1 by looking at other motorsports. And it's fair to say there's a lot of other motorsports to look at, and we may as well dive straight into it. So, Will, what is the first thing you would do, bring from another motorsport, if you will, that you could improve F1 with?
I think that we should do a similar quality system to what they do in Indy for street races.
Ooh.
So where it's split into 2 groups, and then the top 6 from each of those progress, and that will be your Q2 then, and your Q3 would be the top 6.
Okay, so an equivalent would be 10 drivers. I guess are they randomly assigned?
It's usually random. We could do 1 from each team though.
Yeah,
so
1 from each team, 10 drivers. 10 go out, normal Q1. Obviously, they get 15. They'll get like 15 minutes to set a lap. Then 10 from Q2. Or 10 from the other half do their own Q1, and then the top, maybe the top 10? Like 5 top 8 go through, do their own qualifying as well. And then that sets the grid for the race. Why would you pick that?
I think for street races it'd be better. You wouldn't get all the hold up. You get more room. If you did it more generally, you wouldn't have all these massive queues at the end of Q1 where people are just trying to get into position for the best lap, like we see at Monza. And it's always just really silly, and it will lead to accidents. And I think if we had this, it just eliminates that. Yeah, people don't get the tow.
I mean, that is the safety aspect that we have seen a lot of drivers going very slowly at the end of laps, getting that, trying to get that gap in. And it has almost been quite lucky that we haven't seen a really bad accident at the moment. And I mean, this option does feel like it could potentially be better for safety, especially on some of those narrow tracks, but even on some of the more high-speed ones where there obviously are really fast closing speeds between cars that are going slow versus cars that are going fast. I mean, the weather could play a role in this one as well, obviously.
It makes it more exciting.
How do they do it in IndyCar? So let's say either the first section is dry and the next section is wet, or even the other way around, the first section's wetter, the next section's drier. Does that mean it's the best 8 from Group 1 that go through, and then no one goes through?
It's always the top 6 in each session.
Okay.
And so you then get your 12. So it's kind of representative within the individual group, and then that, say, the fast 12 they have all have the same conditions.
Okay, that sounds fairly fair, I think, then.
Yeah, so you're not... And then, so how they do, so if in theory it's 12 in the first session, 12 in the second session, and the top 6 go through, the bottom 6 in each one that are then paired up. So 7th in the first session is next on the grid to 7th in the next session. And so if you're last in one session, you're on the last row of the grid.
Yeah. Okay. That seems interesting.
Yeah, no, that actually does, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, I'm always happy to see different things being tried out or not. And sometimes it'll work, sometimes it doesn't. Obviously, we all know until if they actually implement it. But generally, yeah, no, I agree with Will. But like, the format in IndyCar is really fun format to watch. And yeah, definitely something I would like to see at least try it out in Formula 1 at some point.
Yeah, and I think it is that safety aspect as well. Obviously, we've been saying that it reduces the amount of cars on the track. Maybe that's the criticism of it, but it prevents any issues, or it should prevent any issues of cars slowing down right at the end, holding each other up, like we saw with George Russell in Hungary when he was being held up. Obviously, there's that gentleman's agreement that mysteriously flies out the window at the end of every qualifying session on who gets to go first. But no, I think that's an interesting one. Quali has always seemed like the segment of F1 that's like the most, it's the most simple, but it works. Obviously, we tried to change it. Do you remember when we tried to change it, or F1 tried to change it a few years ago, and just no one liked it
The
at all.
elimination qualifying.
And then just no one could be bothered to actually go out and do a run.
2 races, and then they were like, no.
Yeah, I don't see why this one couldn't work as well. Should we give each idea a plausibility rating out of 10, or just would it improve the show or F1 in general? And I think this could be a 7.5. I'd say this could make it a bit more interesting.
You get like an 8. I think you get like an extra. You effectively get an extra quality session, and it gives those teams that don't necessarily get the same attention a little bit more because there's less cars to focus on.
Yeah.
No, I'd definitely say about 7 or 8 as well. I'll probably give it 7.5. Yeah, no, definitely it's a very viable alternative. I think it's just definitely a lot better than elimination qualifying.
Yeah, I think it just depends on whether we need to change qualifying, because qualifying, it seems to work fairly well at the moment. It's fairly simple, but you can always make things better, and that's what we're trying to do today. Chinmay, what have you got for your first option?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, some people find it a mixed bag, but I'm going to steal from NASCAR now.
Ooh.
That during red flags, people can't work on the cars.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. And that is obviously has been a big thing in F1 in the past. I think it's the case for a few other series as well.
Yeah.
But obviously, pulling it from NASCAR. So I guess that's as simple as it sounds, isn't it?
Yeah. So effectively, because like in NASCAR, when there's a red flag, they have to stop in the track. And for example, if you pitted under safety car, you lose your track position. Maybe not to the same extent, or something like that. But something like how drivers can just change the tires during a red flag. It has caused a few controversy, a bit of a controversy in the past as well. I know there's a few drivers who were quite vocal against it. I remember, was it Lando Norris actually said something about this as well after. And
they normally change their opinions based on whether they benefited off it or not.
Very, very true. But I feel like at least, it's a lot more unfortunate for those who've pitted in the safety car, because especially for what we're seeing at the moment with the EFI, they're sort of bringing out the safety car and then they change their minds bringing it to a red flag. So obviously those who pitted in the safety car completely lose out.
Yeah, I think
in that respect, yes, but to be honest, this is something I'm a bit more impartial on.
Yeah, I think it's difficult because with that sort of thing, there is going to be an element of luck at every possible opportunity. Like if you pit under safety car, then it goes to a red flag, you lose out. But if you pit under safety car and it stays a safety car, you win. Obviously, if you don't pit before the red flag, you win. If you pit before it, you've lost. It's like that element of luck. I mean, the only thing I would say is, what would you do if, for example, a car had damage? Like, it wasn't about tyres, it was about damage. So the example I can think of off the top of my head was Lewis Hamilton back in Silverstone 2021. Obviously, he collides with Max Verstappen. It goes to a red flag. They're able to fix the damage that, at least I think they said after the race, would have taken or would have meant Lewis would have had to retire. Would you say they're allowed to fix damage that could potentially be race ending? Because obviously you don't want to send a car back out onto the track that has damage that could potentially pose a safety risk.
Yeah, maybe for the safety aspect of it, yes. So obviously, you don't want if you are taking a half damaged car to the track, if it's just going to end up like dropping debris everywhere on the track, that's obviously not going to be good for safety. But then, and again, it's just that. But then it also creates an element of luck as well. And I know, obviously, depending on the situation, people are going to think differently on it. I'll probably say I wouldn't mind that too much, but again, it all depends. It's one of those things that it's in the spur of the moment type thing.
I think you should have to justify it to the FIA and say why you should be allowed to fix it. And if you're the reason you've got the damage, you shouldn't be allowed to fix it. So in Hamilton's case, if the FIA deemed that he was at fault as they did, they wouldn't be allowed to touch it. Whereas if it was Max and Max's car was, say, recoverable, definitely wasn't in that case, but they might be able to fix it, then they'd be like, okay, it's not your fault you're in this position, we'll let you fix it.
I think that's probably the fairest way of going about it. It's one of those things where it's like you've got to decide, do you want to have... Well, it's luck either way. It's luck if you mandate you can't change tyres, it's luck if you mandate you can, and like... It's
subjective at the end of the day whether you are going to benefit it.
So who is it fairer? Is it fairer to...
It's basically the opposite of what we have at the moment. Like basically, if you pit under the safety car, you lose. Like,
you lose that either car, you win until it goes to a red flag, then you lose. I mean, I think that's what Max Verstappen had back in 2021 Saudi Arabia when I think Mick had hit the barriers, or Mick Schumacher. And it
inevitably
and it had gone to a safety car, and I think both the Mercedes pit, but Max stays out, and then it goes to a red flag, and obviously under a red flag you can change the tyres like we've been saying. No, do you want to reward being proactive and changing those tyres, and if it goes to a red flag you can say...
Well, I think it rewards strategy, doesn't it? If you can see that damage is going to cause a red flag, then why would you pit?
Well, yeah, I guess that is the thing. It's like, I think either way, it's just luck of the draw, and I guess having a red flag or having the ability to change tyres under a red flag does sort of change that. Personally, I've always been in favour of you can't change tyres under a red flag. Damage, I think you should be able to do, maybe with the caveat of if you've caused it yourself, you shouldn't, but tyres has always seemed like an odd one that kind of benefits people that maybe have made the mistake of not pitting, as opposed to being proactive with like the rules. I mean, they were back in 2020 Italy, I think. There had been a safety car for the Giovinazzi pulling off in front of the pit lane, which eventually obviously hampered Lewis Hamilton when he went into the pits while the pit lane was closed. But then Lance Stroll doesn't pit under that safety car. You look at that decision, you go, objectively, that's probably the wrong decision. But on the restart, 2 laps in, Charles Leclerc loses it at Parabolica, ends up in the barrier, the red flag's thrown, and suddenly Stroll is second on the grid, and realistically, with a good start, wins that race. Like, he's benefiting off making, or his team or himself making, like, a mistake, in a way. So I'd probably stick with what NASCAR do and say no tyre changes under red flags.
I think probably going back to that Stroll and that whole thing, I think that one is just incredible luck in that one, and 2, I think obviously it didn't happen, but it's Stroll. Sorry, I had to sideswipe there, but
he should have won. He would have won that race had he had a semi-competent.
The idea of something benefiting Lance Stroll and leading to him winning a race is something we can't have in Formula 1.
The Formula 1 gods were like, we are gonna wheel spin, your clutch is gonna slip. This is not allowed.
Gonna correct the errors.
No, This is one of the ideas. We're going to get onto a few that are going to be a bit more rogue by the end of the show, but this is actually one of the ideas I genuinely think should be in F1. I think you shouldn't be able to change tyres under a red flag. Damage, I like your caveat, Will, of if you've caused it, you shouldn't make it. Just if it's like gonna cause other people damage, then I'd maybe say there's a caveat for that.
Yeah, of course.
But tyres, at the very least,
the only thing I would say about tyres is there will be some drivers that will get if you call the red flag within a lap, there will be drivers that won't get the opportunity to do that, to make the pit stop. But I think with having it under the red flag, everyone's in that position, they can make the change.
Yeah, I think just at the end of the day, it's always going to be some form of luck.
Or you just say you have to let them go around a lap.
Yeah.
Before
right, I'm saying 9 out of 10 for would I want... Actually, we'll change it from feasibility to would I want that idea in F1.
Yeah, like a 7. I think it wouldn't make a massive change to what we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll go 8.
8. Cool. Right, I'll do my one and then we'll go for a quick break. I would give points like IndyCar do. Maybe this would probably require a rejigging of the point structure. But like IndyCar do, I would give points for any driver that finishes the race. So in IndyCar, every driver that finishes does score a certain amount of points. They have points all the way down to 30th and something like 33rd, obviously with the Indy 500. This results in some odd situations where you see drivers go back to the pits, have their car completely fixed, and going back out there like 20-25 laps down, because at the end of the day, every point matters. And I think that should be in F1 as well. It would stop strategic retirements, which I've always been a bit iffy about. It's just like teams like kind of giving up on the race if they know they're not going to score points. And it would reward drivers that are close to the top 10 but maybe don't have the car to quite scrape into it, like we've seen with a few drivers this season. Liam Lawson in a few of his races, like 11th, 12th. Even Logan Sargent has been fairly close to the points on occasion. I think Italy was his best opportunity, but wasn't able to get it. And I think it just it rewards the teams and the drivers for putting in that effort, regardless of where they finish. And realistically, if you had the point structure the right way, it would still be fine based on who scored the points. But yeah.
No, definitely. I think it's a big one as well, because it gives that spotlight to teams low down. Obviously, it's so... Whether, yes, there'll be combination, yes, their resources relative to the rest of the grid and that sort of stuff. But then, and also how they develop the car. That's just unfortunate that they're not as far off the grid. But at least it gives it sort of spotlight. Because we know 11th downwards is literally just does not mean a thing. Yeah. And especially, if supposedly Andretti come to the sport, for example, we don't know if that's happening because that's a whole story for another day. But then if you got 22 cars, I mean it's a whole 12 of you got 12 cars that just literally are meaningless on the grid, effectively.
It's like you could come 11th, half a second behind 10th place, or you could come 20th, like 2 laps down on everyone else.
It means the same
thing.
It
means exactly the same thing.
I think it would promote active racing in places below 10th.
Yeah.
So I think you'd have there might be someone in 16th that's realistically me getting to 14th is not going to make any difference, especially later in the season when people are like, oh yeah, my highest finish is 11th.
Yeah,
it's not going to affect me when you've got no points.
Yeah.
So it would kind of encourage people to get that a little bit more. It does take away the kind of I've got my first points in Formula 1 sort of achievement.
But at the end of the day, everyone scores points in F1.
Wow.
Unless you're but even these days, with the teams being so close together, everyone will score points in F1 at some point. Unless you're truly not cut out for the grid. Probably Nikita Mazepin is the best example of that. I'm not putting Logan Sargent on that list. I'm not having.
Not yet.
Not yet, but I'm giving him time. and
Stringham time.
he seems nice. I can't bully him. No. Yeah, it rewards teams. It rewards the drivers for putting in that effort. And, you know, sometimes we see when the races are really boring, like that battle for 16th.
Yeah, it'd be
Or
really
something.
good.
And it'd be like, this matters.
This could be like £100,000 in like rewards at the end of the season.
I get it's the sanctity of points and yada yada, but
I still want it.
yeah, it just makes every position matter, and in a race,
Every
it really
position
should
does.
be like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's not really much to argue here. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. I do want.
Yes.
I think obviously the points would have to be rejigged. I don't know off the top of my head what IndyCar's point structure
So
is.
IndyCar do 50, I think it was 50, 45, 40, 35, down to 32. Then 2's down to 20. Then 1's down to 6, and then everyone else gets 5.
Yeah, obviously I think we'd have to change that. I would like to keep a win being worth a lot more than second place.
I think you could do it. You could do it like 30, and then 23, then 20,
Yeah,
and then go down in 2's.
yeah,
Until you get to the point where it's 1's.
or even like, yeah, something like
So
that.
like we still have the 7, you still have the 3, and then everything else is.
I'd say, what's the percentage? There's probably a percentage difference somehow. I'm just going to quickly do 25 over 18 on a calculator. But I think maintaining 25 to 18 kind of feels like a good gap in terms of it does reward a win. And a win is quite significantly more than second place. So it's a win is 39% more points than second place in F1. And I think keeping that gap roughly for a win versus second place is something we want to do, but
but you also don't want to have 40 points for a race win, because that's excessive.
Or even like maybe, I don't know, 35, 25, 20, then something like that. Anyway, we're only improving it in surface levels. We'll leave the higher ups to sort out all the details.
The FIA can do that.
No, but point totals have always been like records for points in F1 have always been a bit naff because the point structures change so much.
Yeah,
it's like I know what is it? I think Lewis has the most points in F1, but it's like,
does he really?
Yeah, but he's like for most of his career. He's
25 points.
There's been that debate over the last few days as we're recording this of like Oscar Piastri's 30 odd points behind Lewis's
record
total, and like well done. But also when Lewis did that, it was 10 points for a win, and the top 8 scored, and no sprint and less races.
Yeah, but he is also the first person since Lewis as a rookie to get 2 podiums. Or more.
We do stan Oscar Piastri.
We do.
He's great.
Yeah.
Anything else? I just think points should be rewarded. Everyone should be rewarded for finishing the race. One thing we haven't maybe discussed is that it would encourage teams to send their cars back out. Obviously, you've got blue flags. I think the blue flag
makes
rules.
it funny. Especially in Monaco, when you've got like a broken Aston Martin going round, just blocking off Verstappen trying to win the race.
Well, I think there would be safety considerations. You can't have a car trundling around on like a third power just to finish the race.
Just a through comes Hamilton, but it's just 3 lapped cars and Lewis just overtaking them all.
Yeah, but I'm giving that a 10 out of 10. It's something I do want to see because I think it's just a lot fairer, and it also makes realistically the championship lower down a lot more interesting in that everyone still has a chance probably to score points up until the final few races. I mean, we've got, for the first time, we've really got quite a battle at the bottom for that 7th, 8th, 9th and maybe 10th, but if AlphaTauri improve. But if we had this new point structure, we could have that for a lot longer and much more regularly. So I'm giving it a 10, but it's up to you.
I'll give it 15 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll go 10 out of 10.
Cool.
So we've improved it.
We've started off with no changing under red flags, so no changing parts, no changing tyres. We've had a completely different point structure and a completely different qualifying. We're going to take a quick break now. We'll come back and discuss a few more options after the break. Welcome back to the Warwick F1 show. Today we are improving F1 with by taking some of the rules and regulations from other series. So far, as we've said, we have a new qualifying, a new point structure, and no changes to the cars under red flags. Chinmay, do you want to start us off with our next potential solution to the crisis of F1?
Yes, so I'm going to do another one again. This is another NASCAR thing, but you can see that
it's a very American influenced podcast.
Yes, there's also that, but also kind of a Goodwood inspired as well. Throwback races, so doing like one-offs where we have people actually racing the old cars.
It's an interesting one. I wouldn't know how I'd feel about it for championship events. I can see it being like a non-championship event, which would be quite fun.
You could replace sprint races with it.
Well, everyone does. Well, hang on.
And there's just no points. There's no sprint race, but it's just you get to watch classic F1.
The other issue is like there aren't. Well, how would they do it? Because they can't put everyone in the same. There aren't 20 like MP4-4s or.
No, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to
F2002.
be a competitive session. Just has to be like, just change the weekend format and just have a classic day.
Everyone's got like it's like a time attack.
Yeah.
Everyone gets like 3 laps in an F2002. We'll put Logan last. Just
No. We'll put Lance last.
so we keep the F2002 in working condition. I'd say that could be a fun thing for like just replacing a session one day. I'd say it could be fun in like, I guess maybe not Monaco because the walls are quite close, but
I found a perfect use for Le Castellet.
Yeah,
Massive runoffs.
Yeah, there we go. We'll put it in France. I don't know. It's a difficult one because obviously you'd be replacing maybe a session. I like the idea. I just don't know if it would work in real life. It works on the F1 game. Do they still have classic cars on the F1 game?
No.
They get rid of them.
And classic trucks.
What's the point?
I would like the idea of making all teams have to run a classic livery.
I like that, and
a classic helmet. Based on like a previous driver of the team's helmet. So like Charles Leclerc with the 7 stars of.
Or maybe not even that, or like you got to run an old school helmet. You could even say for some, like Fernando Alonso in his old like Renault or Ferrari helmets. Or Lewis Hamilton back in.
Or you have to wear the helmet that they wore in that car.
Yeah. A classic livery. Obviously, there are issues with like sponsors and stuff, but that.
Well, yeah, but you just change the actual.
Ferrari would have an easy job. Oh no, we're just gonna pull out one of our red.
But you go back to like the 1990s ones that like was similar to last year's. It was like the dark red.
Well, they raced in blue in the 60s for some races. They could go to a blue livery. I like the idea of classic liveries. I am interested, and I think we might, if we get the time, we might discuss it later on, or maybe even bringing it in now. But F1 teams have gone a lot more into custom, like one-off liveries. Like I remember, it was back in the 2010s. It was like you'd see maybe one a season from one car, and now you're seeing like 3, 4, 5 from one team at the moment. McLaren have they've had about 3 this season.
They had the Triple Crown, the throwback silver one, and then their Night Stealth one, they called it.
Yeah. Williams have had their Golf one. They had a British flag for the British Grand Prix. Even Mercedes last season had one at Spa, which didn't end well.
Ferrari have had Monza ones the last 2 years.
Yeah. Ferrari have had Monza ones. Alfa Romeo have had I'm onto one this year as well.
I'd love to see like a retro AlphaTauri one.
And I like McLaren. Yeah, the McLaren had the Triple Crown. I like that, and I love it if one race, like keep the custom ones throughout the season, but one race every team does their own custom livery.
I think you should, like Monaco would be good because like the Indy 500 is where you see a lot of like special liveries.
Well, I'd say Monaco.
Monaco would be good
as well. I don't know. We've changed your idea a bit.
Yeah.
Just a tad.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, definitely. That's definitely. But again, if it's just some way we can watch, we can just see it. See classic F1. I mean, we always hear there's complaints about people wanting V8s to be brought back, which in this current climate isn't really feasible because of all the environmental stuff going on. But it's.
There was a video popped up in my Twitter feed of a 2022 Ferrari had been retrofitted with a V12, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's what F1 could sound like. I'm sure if you just search Ferrari 2022 V12, you should be able to find it. But it does sound so cool. But I would say for the retro cars for a weekend, maybe I'd like it, but I don't think it's plausible. But definitely for the retro livery, either at Monaco or Monza or Silverstone or one of the older races on the calendar, definitely an idea that I'd like to see.
Yeah, and maybe you have to run like a special livery at your home race or something.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of teams do anyway, but it'd still be quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's nothing more to say there.
Yeah. I think it's a simple one. It's not one that will drastically change everything, and I think it's good to always embrace. It's always good to embrace the history as well as moving forward into the present. Will, what is your next idea?
So I'm seeing something else from IndyCar now. I think that we should move the timing line before the pit entrance, so that way, in quali, you literally set your lap and then you come in for the pits. So
good for the environment, save fuel.
Well, exactly, and it would mean that you get more laps in. Everyone's quicker because they're on less fuel. You literally have to just do an out lap and come in. Your tyres would have less life on, so you could use them more in a race, or multiple times even.
Would you say that should they reduce the time of qualifying? Because I get even at the end of quali, the last lap where they just finish their lap and then just go around driving into the pits, it's a bit redundant, isn't it? Occasionally, obviously, you have sessions, normally in the wet, where they're just circulating. Like, they'll do a push lap, slow lap, push lap, slow lap, push lap.
One shot quali.
One shot quali.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
Please.
Just change the qualifying system. We can change it a bit, like, for different races.
Yeah, can we have it, like, almost race dependent? So, like, if it's a straight track, we do it this way. If it's
spin a wheel.
Wow, different drivers have to do different qualifyings.
No, the timing line before the start finish line, it is an interest. So what? It's almost like where they'd have to sort of decide where to put it. So
like, for example, at Silverstone, it'd probably be at the back. It'd be at the end of probably the hangar straight.
Yeah.
So then you do Stowe. Stowe would be your first corner of a timed lap. You still start the race in the same place.
Yeah.
But Stowe would be... So you'd finish your lap at the end of the hangar straight.
It would feel a bit weird, I think.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit complicated places like Silverstone, because if we say we do the timing line at the end of the hangar straight, then, like, where do we finish the race?
Well, the race itself is still...
The racing line, like,
it's still the race. It's still the start finish line.
I'd say for Silverstone, for example, you'd have cars backing up through Maggots and Beckett's, and is that really the best place to have them?
No, but you probably would have to put rules in saying you can't do that.
But people
F1 drivers are traditionally
compliant
with the rules, especially around sort of that sort of thing. I think it's just a race. At least a lot of the racetracks we use are kind of designed for the start finish straight to sort of be where they are, and cars backing up, like Monaco, for example.
Oh my word.
They'd be backing up through the swimming pool section as well. And that's terrifying.
Oh dear.
Like, it's already terrifying when you see, like, one car on the inside as they're going through those 2 chicanes. Can you imagine having, like,
4
or 5? It's a good idea, and I think it would save the environment, but I don't know how feasible it maybe would be.
I think it kind of mixes with what I said before about having that Indy split in quality. So basically, just have Indy quality at this point with that start. So people, it's literally just continuous one lap. You got everyone, you push from your first lap to get your tyres in.
Yeah.
And you just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, I think it works with the Indy quality style, but having like 20 drivers out on the track at once maybe doesn't work as well. I'd give it like a 4. For would I want to see it kind of thing.
Yeah, it's something I want to. I would be objective. I think it might make things different and interesting.
I think it would be nice to see. I just don't know how feasible it would be at certain tracks.
Yeah. Probably like a 6 for me, but
yeah. Right, one thing, I'm going to move away from America because we've gone very IndyCar NASCAR. I know, I'm sorry. We've gone very IndyCar NASCAR focused, and this is, I think, another one that would be track dependent, but having joker laps for infringements as opposed to time penalties. So in MotoGP, they don't call them joker laps, they call them, I've taken joker laps from like motocross, but they have like long laps where if a driver causes an infraction or whatever and they're penalised, they have to go do a longer part of the track for a certain number of laps before they can continue on with their race. And I think, personally, it would almost be preferable to like a 5-second time penalty. That we've discussed it for the last few weeks, and that sometimes a 5-second time penalty doesn't essentially mean a penalty for some cars and some drivers, especially the quicker ones. But if you are going round maybe a longer corner, I think it's Austria, like turn 1, they keep going and then there's a tighter hairpin at the top and you've got to feed back on. Or I'm trying to think of another one. Or like
turn 1 Monza, if they don't miss, if they've missed a chicane, they have to go.
Yeah, they've got
thing.
to.
Unless you're Sebastian Vettel in the SF1000 with broken brakes, and that's a different story. But
but having that as like instead of a 5-second time penalty, you've just got to go through straight and do that.
You'd have to think about the safety of rejoining. That would be the main, because obviously an F1 car's a lot bigger than a MotoGP bike.
And I don't think it would work at every track, like Monaco. You'd have to stick with 5-second penalties. Singapore, I can't really, unless they put like a chicane in the run.
Singapore, you just do what they've had to do at the moment, where you just go back to the old track layout. You just go over the bridge, or under the bridge. Sorry.
Well, you just got to turn left.
Just go right round.
But
places like Abu Dhabi or Bahrain have like those are different.
They've got layouts that you can do. Well, it just seems fairer than a 5-second time penalty that maybe doesn't necessarily work. And obviously, you'd have to account for the fact that runoffs might be a bit like dirtier. But that's your penalty as well. You're going to get some dirt on your tyres for causing a 5-second penalty. But like Baku, like they've got to go a bit further along into the runoff area at turn 1. Obviously, there's like
that would be a bit of a...
There's the safety aspect, but
street circuits probably a bit
street circuits would be more difficult. But I think at least it just seems fairer. It seems like more feasible in terms of making a penalty actually a penalty. Maybe they don't. Maybe at some races they have to do it once, some races have to do it twice, some races have to do it 3 times in the next like 5 laps or whatever, because then you can keep that strategy element of when do you do it, like do you do it and lose a position. But I don't know. What do you think?
No, that's definitely good. No, it's definitely a viable option. At least trying to find alternatives to the 5-second penalty is definitely something that we have been thinking about for a while now. So, this could be another way we improve F1, which we've definitely been doing.
Just send them over the grass at Austria.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Go do some Bottas lawn mowing.
You could just have it so you have to make them take longer ways around corners, even. So less so against street circuits, but somewhere like, Bahrain, you can't take those tight lines. You have to go really wide.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting this would work in like Monaco. Like,
it would probably have to be like something they'd say now, and then all the circuits would have to get ready for it.
Yeah, could you put it anywhere in Monaco? I'm trying to think.
No.
Not really.
The only way you could do it would be hypothetically if you reverted to the old Monaco layout.
Yeah.
You could change the layout so at the bottom of the hill, out of the tunnel, they go straight on, and you have to do the chicane as punishment.
Could work.
But then you just have cars coming
exceptionally
straight.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, you widen it, don't you? So you've got the runoff where the cars at the bottom of the hill just go. You'd have that as your normal route, and you come back in. Probably the only.
I think there'd be ways of doing it. It would be fairer. 5-second penalties aren't penalties for some teams.
Yeah, you just have to do a little spin in a runoff area.
Yeah, you got to do like a pirouette. No, I think, and it's an idea. Sort of, do I want it plus feasibility? Yeah, probably about an 8. I'd say it's not a difficult thing to implement.
Yeah, I think an 8. I think just the feasibility is probably the bit that's a bit.
At some tracks, I don't think it would work. But other ones, it definitely would. Right, we'll do another 3 actually. Will, what are you thinking?
Okay, I'm gonna go for reverse grid because I love the reverse grid in F2.
Any specific reverse
for the
grid
sprint? For the sprints.
For the whole grid or just the
I think you get rid of sprint weekend.
Okay.
And you have your extra practice session, and then you have your reverse grid based on the original qualifying.
So you get rid of like sprint shootout because obviously it wouldn't work.
Don't get me wrong, I like the extra session. I think it's more fun. But I think that way you're guaranteed overtakes.
Yeah. I don't. This was one of the ones where it's like a big proposal that it had actually been considered by F1, but it was the big teams that didn't like it very much, and
I can see why.
Yeah, you can see why.
So I don't want to have to overtake these slow cars.
But Carlos Sainz was in favour of it. He was on the, I think, the Matt and Tommy P1
he
podcast.
Did. I can't remember
and
what
he was like, yeah, why not? We'll have reverse grids.
Yeah.
He was like reverse grid for the entire grid.
Yeah, that's what he was.
Have Logan Sargent P1.
Oh my god, that'd be hectic. Should you imagine Logan Sargent and Lance Stroll going into turn 1 at Monaco?
Oh no. I do like, maybe not for the top 20,
no, I think
but for the top 10 at the very least, because then there's that balance of discrepancy in pace, but also not too much of a discrepancy in pace, where you're going to have like 5 drivers trying to overtake into one corner or something, which could potentially cause incidents that we don't
realistically, you look at our current top 10, bar maybe the people that would start on pole, everyone else will be fine.
Well, our normal top 10 is Red Bull, if Perez...
There's literally 5, there's like 6 teams that can be between, realistically.
Red Bull if Perez isn't having an off day, Mercedes normally, Ferrari normally, McLaren normally,
Aston,
Alonso,
and then Alpine,
and then it's 2 of like
and Alpine are pretty rapid in a straight line, so that's fine for start.
Yeah, it's 2 of like Alpine or AlphaTauri or Alfa Romeo, like Haas or something. Oh yeah, it's normally Nico Hulkenberg. Just
always Nico Hulkenberg
before he instantly drops back during the race because that Haas has the race pace of a dog. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like the reverse grid idea. I was quite disappointed when we didn't see it. I get it's kind of a bit gimmicky, but
it's fun.
It is. It's meant to be gimmicky. Let's make F1 a bit more fun. I mean, what are your thoughts, Chinmay?
Just do it. Literally, just do it. I'm definitely not gonna stay away from. I'm definitely not gonna oppose a reverse grid. I mean, Carlos Sainz has said that.
Yeah. And who are we to disagree with the smooth operator?
The smoothest of operators.
Exactly.
I personally would go for top 10.
I think top 10 works.
Out of all the options.
Basically how Formula 2 works.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's a bit safer. It's slightly less chaotic. I think it's a good balance.
Yeah. Or you do your sprint gimmicky weekend, middle day. and then you just do a reverse grid for the bottom half of the grid for the main race.
Oh, no.
So your top 10 set.
That's what you just have like people in 20th just retiring.
No, so like.
No, but if
So
like,
you still have the normal like sprint weekend.
Yeah.
I suppose you could just do a reverse grid from quali anyway. But I was like just sort of the bottom.
well, you'd have to get rid
fun.
of sprint shootout because otherwise no one would set a time because they'd all just want to be 20th and therefore first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I mean like 20th to 11th. You'd flip.
but then you'd have like a driver in 19th would just retire, so he could start 11th and
Yeah, I
get 8
suppose.
positions, and it would kind of
No, not in the race. I mean, so on Friday qualifying,
yeah.
your bottom 10's flipped
But then why
for
would
the
you,
Sunday.
Well, why would you qualify then?
Someone has to.
Well,
Well, 'cause you can still get into
F1
Q3.
teams can
you
be surprisingly
you can still
stubborn.
get into Q3.
True. It's almost like that.
Like,
Trade-off.
Do you want to get 10th or do you want to be?
Yeah, but for like a driver like Logan Sargent,
Well, he'll be 20th anyway, so it's
yeah, but then he'll be 11th.
yeah, so he might actually get a
So
point.
why would he bother
Be fine.
qualifying?
Yeah, he would. But someone like the Alpines might try and then get 11th. Then be like, oh damn.
Than starting 20th.
Yeah, and the engines will blow up and.
There's a lot that could be worked out with reverse grids. Personally, I'd just
Yeah, I think the
get rid of sprint shootout,
reverse grid race.
have Friday quali, do like practice 2, kind of like the old sprint format, but instead of just have the reverse top 10.
Yeah.
And obviously give pole position to the driver that got it on pole position, not the driver that won
Yeah.
the sprint. Whoever thought of that idea was silly.
Oh, so silly.
No, but feasibility plus would I want it? 8.5.
Yeah, like a 9.
Yeah.
It makes it more fun.
10.
10?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh. Right, I'm going to go for mine. I am going to say, going to bring it back to the liveries and have driver specific liveries. This is a controversial one and it's very from IndyCar, and it is something that took time for me to get used to in IndyCar, was working out who was teammates with who, because everyone had a different like
You've got to look at the number styles.
but I can't see.
It's the font, man.
They're going 200 miles an hour.
No, it's on the side where like all the positions are.
Yeah, I worked out in the end that
Yeah.
Colton Herta was normally in the black and yellow car, and the
No, but like so on like the timing screen on the side, they have like the little boxes with all the numbers in.
yeah, but I was watching it on quite a small screen, so I couldn't really see.
That's easy.
But I like the idea of having drivers have their own liveries, because I guess it's more individuality and things like that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think the thing with IndyCar is it's all sponsorship based.
I think it would be like that for.
I would be intrigued to do like an inverse livery between like each team. So like one for I would be like all red, and Carlos Sainz's say would be all yellow.
Ooh, that could be fun.
And like you'd have a black Mercedes and a silver Mercedes.
Maybe we could link it to the one-off
Classic.
idea classic
Yeah,
one.
maybe.
that
Was
we
it
had.
one driver has to have a classic livery and it can like alternate or something?
Well, not even that. I'd say, like, rather than the teams, maybe if we do the classic livery, rather than the teams.
A driver has to.
Yeah, driver has to
You can just
run the
pick their
classic
favourite.
livery. Everyone can go with what they want.
Yeah, from any team.
You've just got like a Rothman's JPM
Ferrari.
on a Ferrari or something like that.
Yes. Just Mercedes running a Brawn. Well, I suppose they basically are Brawn, but
I think once I got used to it, it was quite
it's quite cool.
cool in IndyCar to see
Yeah.
the drivers had their own, like, it was sort of more personalised in a way, like I knew it was Scott Dixon because it was blue and orange, or I knew
Yeah.
it was Alex Palou because it was the American Legion. It was when they changed them one off, that's when it got confusing.
They did a lot for IndyCar. For the Indy 500, it changed, and like sometimes it changes for street circuits.
The McLarens and some teams are a bit more like
Uniform.
niche, and like the McLarens, for example,
Have like different tints, like a
Yeah.
blue.
I think the Juncos for Canapino and
Yeah.
Ilott were fairly similar as
They're
well.
both just black and green with different numbers on.
Yeah, but no, it's a fun one.
It's all like sponsor based, so like whoever's in Grosjean's car next year will have the same livery.
It's gonna be like DHL,
28,
DHL
yeah.
Honda.
So I'd like the idea of having like an inverse livery. I don't know what Red Bull. Oh, could you imagine a red Red Bull?
Ooh,
That would awesome.
Do you remember their testing livery with the red and the purple?
Yes.
Oh, that's a
Such
nice.
a good livery.
Can we bring back the old Red Bull livery where it was basically purple?
Can we
Like in Seb's days.
Can we just mandate Red Bull having to do something with their livery?
Imagine being,
as opposed to just
imagine
the
being
same
the
thing
Red Bull livery designer. You must make so much money
For doing nothing. No, I did. The old purple.
Yeah, it used to look
liveries
so
were
good.
nice.
With the Infinity sponsor. Oh, what time?
I don't know why, it's the 2014 one that's sticking out in my mind. Of like the iconic Red Bull livery.
I mean, like 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2012 was definitely one.
No, it had that ugly nose.
Yeah.
Everyone had that ugly nose in 2012.
I do miss the white on Ferraris though. Like the red and white ones are like the late 2010s.
The 2017 is
Yes.
the one I'm thinking of.
That Kimi one. Oh.
Mercedes haven't. The black Mercedes.
It's kind of
Now-
lost its appeal.
Yeah, because the W14 is not very good. The W11 will always be my favourite. Like,
The silver looks quite good.
yeah.
Like having one silver and one black would be quite cool.
Yeah, that's maybe you just make it individual between teams as well.
Yeah.
I think, what was it? It was that story, BAR tried to run it in like 2001 or something. They tried to run two liveries. The FAA were like, nah. So then they ran like this weird zipper livery, which had like one half of the car was one of them and one half of the car was the other. So you managed to take the worst solution to that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just pick one.
Yeah. What do you think, Chinmay?
No, definitely. It's I mean, there's nothing.
We're just
much
we're covering everything.
Yeah, it's like so.
No, it's fine. Yeah. So different liveries. Will, what are you suggesting?
Back to me. Okay.
Oh wait, back to you.
I read the
Oh,
time.
have you done two? Sorry,
I've done two.
Okay, Chinmay, your final one. That was
So
great.
my last one. You know how they do safety car restarts and everyone's one behind the other. Why not do it side by side?
Yes.
Make it more chaotic. Kind of again, we're moving. Is another NASCAR thing.
That's a very American
Very.
thing.
But
to
Americans
start
don't
with.
believe in ties.
Americans don't believe. They're great. I love them. I love their racing. It's just very chaotic. So do they restart side by side in Indy? I think they do in NASCAR. But do they restart side by side in IndyCar?
No, they start side by side, but they don't. Restart.
I like a good old side by side start. That's quite fun.
Yeah, but they always have to like abort it because the pack at the back just don't get into
Yeah,
position.
but that's just because they're being numpties.
It's because they're all F1 rejects.
I'm going to be honest. One of my favourite parts of the Indy 500 is the start.
Of course it is.
What is it? It's like, I don't know which announcer it is, but it's like, the greatest show in racing begins, and I'm like, yeah! I feel so American despite not being American in the
That and like
slightest.
the last two laps, because there's always a red flag. It's always really close, and then there's always about 4 red flags in a row.
And it's like,
And you run out of time to
they
restart.
just admit to rigging the red flag procedure just so they can get a green flag lap in.
I like that though.
Yeah, but let's maybe codify that in the rules before we decide to start it for some reason in Abu Dhabi 2021. But that's not all we're talking about.
It's a spectacle. It's a spectator sport.
Let's not go back there. It's too traumatizing. Side by side starts. I like the idea of it being just for a rolling safety car start.
Yes.
Not like I wouldn't want to get rid of standing starts.
No, standing starts are fun until someone stalls.
Standing starts are my favourite format to start, which is why that sounds weird, but it's why I'd always prefer standing starts even after red flags.
Yes, same.
Even in the wet.
Maybe not in the wet.
Depends how wet it is.
Yeah.
But if it's a rolling start, I'd prefer 2x2. I think 2x2 is probably as wide as we're going to get, isn't it?
No, you can't really have 3.
3x3 in Monaco.
Oh gosh.
No, they'll just crash into each other, just going trying to get around a Rascas.
Yeah, even going 2x2 in Monaco going around Rascas is just not going to work.
No.
I love it when they try and do Rascas 2x2. It's just
It was Schumacher, wasn't it, at the end of the race a few years ago?
He parked his car in Rascas to get pole position.
No, it was
it was 2012.
2012. There was a safety car with like a lap to go, and obviously they brought the safety car in so everyone could cross the line. and you could overtake, and he just sent one up the inside of, I think it was like Alonso or something.
But the thing is, I actually think that obeyed the rules. The FIA were just like, nah.
No, it stood.
No, it didn't.
Did it not?
I think it got reversed after the race or something.
No, I thought it stood.
I might have to check, but they were just like, nah, which is a bit disappointing.
Because it's the FIA.
Yeah.
Can't have any fun.
That's why we're here. We're making it better.
Yeah. We should become the FIA.
Well, we'll be submitting our CVs to Paris by the end of the week.
Yes.
Right. Feasibility versus and would I like to see it? This is one where I'd probably go, it's on the lower end of the feasibility scale. It does feel, I think F1 fans would naturally reject it just because it does feel quite American. And we seem to naturally reject everything
that
American
is remotely
related.
American. Even if it's a really good race, still no.
No, I would go for a 6 out of 10, personally.
7.
I don't know, it's like a 5. It's not something particularly appeals to me.
Yeah. Great. So we're going to take another quick break now. We've done 6 more suggestions. We'll be back for a few more, and then to finish it off, we'll discuss some of the F1 news that has taken place over the last week as well, and then we'll have a quick look forward as well to obviously Austin coming up this weekend, do some promotion and things like that. Welcome back to the Warwick F1 show. We have, I'd say, 3 final proposals to improve the sport. I think we've done quite well so far. I think if the FIA listened to these, we'd have a better season, I think. What's been your favourite so far of all of them?
Probably just the various qualifying formats we thought of.
I think mine's the points. I think just everyone getting points, I think, would improve the sport.
Yeah, I like the points one.
Yeah, giving points out like Oprah.
Yeah, doesn't matter. But it doesn't...
Leo on the boat.
You get a point. Everybody gets a point.
As long as there are still gaps, I don't think that point one matters. Right, final 3, and then we're going to have a quick look at some of the news for the week that's just gone. So, what have we got?
Easy one, lower ticket prices.
Lower ticket prices. Yes.
Yes. Save money. Live better.
All right.
It's
Is that a Tesco?
No. Yeah.
Is that NatWest or like nationwide or something?
I don't know. But it's
Other
definitely
banks and supermarkets are available. Yeah, lower ticket prices. Some of the races are reasonable. And others are not.
I don't think
Silverstone, cough.
Silverstone's not that bad if you don't care about having a seat. Like, because you can get just track access. It's like 70 quid.
Yeah.
Which isn't horrendous. Bear in mind, you can go and sit on the hangar straight for free.
My sister went to Belgium last year for about 120.
It's not.
Yeah, which, like...
yes, I'd like it to be cheaper.
But that's 3 days. That's 3 full days of entertainment. It's not just about the... If I was going to go to a race, I'd never just go to one that only had F1. No. I'd go to one that had F2, ideally also F3.
And maybe like some Porsche Super Cup or whatever.
Yeah. And F1, maybe in the future even F1 Academy, if they start incorporating that into the race weekend as well. Yeah. There are very obviously some races that are far, far too expensive. And I'm looking at America.
Yes.
Apart from COTA. Which, even that's it's not
pricey.
Cheap, but for the other, the other two.
I guess you've got to look at the conversion of dollars to pounds. And you've got to think that actually the street circuits are naturally going to be more expensive, especially these years when they're trying to recoup the costs of actually getting the track there in the first place. Like Vegas having to build a whole new paddock, so that's going to cost money.
Yeah. One thing I didn't realise about Vegas, but sidetrack, it goes around the big sphere. Have you seen the big sphere? Oh, that's going to be so...
Oh, can we have Gunther Steiner's face on it?
Someone's gonna Photoshop Gunther's face.
It's gonna be Toto with the headphones.
They're gonna do stuff with that sphere.
I would.
It's gonna look cool.
I would go out and buy a pair of Bose headphones if Bose ran an advert on that sphere during the F1 weekend, and it's just Toto just
smashing the headphones. Was that in Abu Dhabi, or was that in
Saudi?
That was in every race Toto's been
Saudi,
annoyed
right?
at.
2021? What?
Yeah, I think it was Saudi, the one where he literally smashed it.
There was one he did either this year or last year as well, I think.
Well, we missed his reaction in Qatar because he wasn't there.
Oh my god, that would have been so funny.
I think he would have just given up.
Yeah.
He would just got up and walked away.
No. It's not just about the ticket costs as well, it's about travel costs, because Qatar, I think the tickets were really cheap, but travelling and hotels were like the expensive part.
Hotels are the expensive one. Like, I looked at going to Belgium, and like the tickets weren't too bad themselves, but you're looking at £400-500 for somewhere to stay locally.
That's why you gotta like camp and stuff.
Yeah, but even then, like, you got to get there, and the campsites are booked up within. Like, as soon as the dates come out,
Yeah.
the campsites are booked.
I would say they are probably too expensive, but I think it's almost a supply and demand.
It's a necessary
issue.
evil.
It's almost like F1 has now become so popular, so this was
We can make more money.
inevitably going to occur, but it like we do want. I think I've never been to an F1 race, and I do want to go at some point, but at the moment, like, I can't maybe justify spending that amount of money. I do want to go to the Indy 500 because it can fall on my birthday, and I feel like that'd be cool.
I think you should justify it. It is such an amazing day.
How loud are the cars?
They're not as loud as they used to be.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky because I've been twice. So I went 2008 and then 2021 Silverstone. So 2 quite eventful races.
I do want to try and see the Triple Crown at some point.
Yes, that would be very
I want to go. You know what I want to do? I want to go to Le Mans. I want to go to Le Mans now because there's actual competition in the
Le Mans.
park.
I think we should do a Le Mans like F1.
Should we go to Le Mans?
F1 soccer trip to Le Mans.
Yeah.
Can we wait till 2025 because I want to watch the Valkyrie?
Oh, we got Lambo this year.
No, but they'll be back next year, and then I get to the.
I know.
Wait, you want to miss out?
I wanted to go this year because Ferrari actually won, and that would have been amazing.
You want to miss out on the V12 AMR Pro?
No, I don't.
Exactly.
But I also don't want to miss it lose to the Ferrari, so it's fine.
It's not going to lose.
It's
back.
It's literally going to be the same as like the Peugeot,
Don't care.
where it's like really good, but is also useless.
But it has a V12. Don't care. Right. Ticket prices. Yeah, we want them. Will it happen? Probably not. Well, your final one?
I think we should, especially on sprint weekends, scrap Parc Fermé and have an extra practice on the morning of the race. Move the race slightly later, and have. Like, you can keep Parc Fermé for the sprint race, but I think if you should have an opportunity to learn something from the sprint race.
I disagree. I quite like the whole you've got one session, make it count kind of thing. I get it. Like, F1 is very technologically focused because naturally that's just where the sport was going to progress after the 80s and 90s. It was going to be in a sport where every 10th counts, getting that computer power in to make every 10th count was just the natural progression. I like that we go a bit old school in a sprint race where if you get it wrong, you've got it wrong. You can't have hours on end to make adjustments and things like that. It is a bit old school in the new age era of a sprint weekend, which I kind of quite like the marriage of the two ideas.
No, fully agreed. At least, yeah, I think especially because that one practice session creates the unpredictability. Yes, I know from an engineer's perspective, we hate it because they can't create that perfect setup. But then it's not more pure, but it's more driver focused.
I think my point back would be that actually your qualifying positions are already determined. Your sprint, most of your weekend's gone. The only thing it does is make your race car slightly better.
But it means that...
Yes, it means you...
But like in Singapore, for example, if Red Bull... Let's obviously it wasn't a sprint weekend, but assume Parc Fermé doesn't exist or whatever. Obviously, that's not feasible, but we'll do the hypothetical. If Red Bull have that overnight to make their car a lot better, then they could potentially like dominate that race. That's why I like Parc Fermé. It's just you've made your bed, now lie in it, kind of thing. It's like, you've made these decisions, you have to adapt and deal with the consequences of the decisions that you have made. And it means that it still allows for the cream of the engineers to rise to the top because they got it right earlier than everyone else. And I think that's where Red Bull in particular still shine, in that they're able to get the car to grips with the circuit most of the time so much quicker than everyone else. It's where like Mercedes, I think, struggle a bit more in that they take time to every weekend at the moment, it seems they're taking time to work it out. And
their Friday's just a bit pointless.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that part for me. I like that it offers it offers the opportunity for a team to get it wrong, and then the drivers now just have to work with what they've got.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So I'm going to reject your idea.
That's fine.
Yeah, I can see both perspectives, but I think I'm on Kingswood with this one.
Yes.
I can't. Well,
you're on Will's side. Just
yeah, I'm on Will. I can be I'm on Will's side. But yeah, it is what it is.
Right, my final one. It'd be really good if I could think of one. Hang on, Will, what have you got on your list left?
The only one I had left was points for quality, potentially.
Okay, that reminds me of one we were discussing earlier. Rather than points for everyone, more points. Points for quali,
Okay.
points for leading a lap, or a point for leading a lap, and 2 points for leading the most laps, like we saw with like we saw in IndyCar, or like we see in IndyCar.
Yeah.
This goes back to once again our favourite F1 season that did ever occur, the 2021 Formula 1 season, in that Max led, and this was part of the reason why some fans felt that Max's title win was more deserved, in that Max was a lot more dominant than Lewis over the course of the season. He led more laps in 2021 than he did in 2022.
Yeah.
But he wasn't kind of rewarded for leading that many laps, and this system would reward him for, like, it wouldn't be a big reward, and I think that's completely fair, but it would be a reward.
Like extra 10 points at the end of the season or something.
Yeah, and like we saw in 2021, that can have a huge impact on the outcome of a world championship, and I think it does reward drivers for being dominant. I wouldn't give a driver extra points for like a grand slam or a triple or a double or something like that. But leading a lap also very good for the lower teams.
Yeah, just leave your car out to die.
Yeah, but that's your trade-off.
Yeah, you get your point.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're Logan Sargent.
Well, it's like Guan Yu. Someone led a lap in, or Albon almost led a lap in Qatar, and if this system's in, you think they leave them out for
an extra
one lap longer to get one extra point.
Don't think they could in Qatar.
Yeah, but actually, it's a good point. I forgot about the whole weird tyre thing. That's not being introduced.
That's definitely going to be introduced.
But I think that points for quali, I'd say perhaps.
I think on non-sprint weekends, maybe.
It would have to be the three. You know how the sprint weekend was all 3-2-1 for the top three?
Yeah,
I'd do that.
I have no issue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. No.
I think at the end of the day, the race is the most important event. It should be given the bulk of the points, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to have points for
elsewhere.
Some of the lower elsewhere. And realistically, if, let's say, you introduce this whole led a lap, 3 points for qualifying, the max you can get is 6, which is only a quarter for a race win.
Yeah. It's not masses.
And if you could even increase the points for a race win if we end up having like Andretti on the grid and having more teams.
So would you maybe consider having, say, 5 points extra if you lead all the sessions?
Yeah.
And then you might have someone be like, okay, actually I want to come out and practice, and
I don't want to make it too like gimmicky of like.
No, but I think it would if you're saying practice is a bit dull sometimes, I think it would encourage people to be like, okay, let's just try and top that
I'm not sure I'd give points for practice.
No, not just for practice,
But
but
that-
for topping all of them.
But that is kind of like giving
I
points
suppose.
for practice. And all that. Practice should just be like, I get
Practicing.
the arguments that practice is boring, but it is also
Required.
designed to be and required to be. It's not a competitive session, so don't make it like a competitive session.
That's true.
In a way.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think?
No, definitely. I think you pretty much just said my points there as well.
What we're learning from IndyCar is they have really good rules.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
just really bad drivers.
yeah. They seem to have a much better rule implementation than F1 currently has right
I will
now.
have no slander against my New Zealand love, Scott Dixon. And Scott McLaughlin. All the Scots.
And Pato. He's not from New Zealand, but Pato was a good driver.
I like IndyCar. When's IndyCar back?
Oh, like March.
Well, this isn't
April.
an IndyCar podcast.
Not yet.
Not until we make it one. Great. I think that we'll do the feasibility. This is another high one, I think, for me. Like 9.5. It's very easily implemented, and I think it should be.
Yeah.
It's just more points.
Yes.
Reward the drivers.
Let Verstappen break more records.
That's fine. He's gonna win it regardless.
He's gonna break every. By the end of the season, he could genuinely hold pretty much every F1 record, apart from like wins, poles, and points.
I don't. Yeah, but I've never really liked point records. Like I said, point systems change so much that they're all redundant.
That's true.
Like-
So we're gonna break his win record though.
Yeah, I like relative points is still fine. Like
Yeah.
percentage points and stuff like that because you've eliminated the bias. But
Yeah.
no, great. I think we've sold F1. They should listen to
Yes.
us.
Yes.
There are a lot there. Probably too many for me to run through, but make sure to give us your feedback. See, have we sold F1, basically? But before we end quickly, we're just going to discuss some of the news that has come out of the F1 week or F1 paddock for the past week. Starting off with an interesting, is probably the most generous way I'm going to put it for this segment, story of this penalty for Lewis Hamilton. So in Qatar, obviously Lewis and George collide in an incident that I don't want to talk about much longer, but after Lewis gets out of the car, he walks back across the track, and that is not allowed, basically. And you can very, very obviously understand why, in that you've got 700 kilo objects travelling at, even under safety car speeds, 100 miles an hour around corners.
Yeah.
You don't want a human being on the track. We've seen in the past some of the horrific incidents that can occur when that sort of thing goes wrong, and it's not something we'd ever want to see, particularly now with like the amount of media coverage that you can see in F1. So he was fined, I think it was about 130,000.
So it was 50,000.
Was it?
Yeah, it was 50,000 euros on a reprimand.
Yeah, I think it was fined 50. Yeah, it was like 50,000. I think 50,000 suspended for a year or something.
Oh, maybe.
Like, and that is it's a lot of money for
Not-
F1 drivers. Maybe a bit less.
Not so much for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to how it goes back to what we're going to come on to. Do you penalise the drivers equally, regardless of their salaries or something like that? But we have seen that come under review, and I don't know. There are two parts of should it be under review, and particularly the FIA's justification for putting it under review, saying that in light of Lewis Hamilton's influence over, and I think it was the younger
As a role
drivers,
model of
as
the
a
sport.
role model, I find that extremely iffy in terms of penalising drivers equally. That because he is, like, yes, he is a role model of the sport, but should that mean he's punished more severely because of that? I would say absolutely not.
No, I don't think he should be, but there's a few reasons I can think of why they're doing this. For Lewis Hamilton, like we said, 50,000 euros
No.
isn't a lot of money, and a reprimand he's not going to care about.
Reprimands aren't
I think
punished.
you need to make it seem like this is a very big deal. In this world of health and safety we live in, that you can't just be walking across the track and it's basically like a slap on the wrist.
But I would say, once they've made the decision, and this is an ongoing debate in F1 about penalties, can you change them after the fact, sort of thing.
I don't know if they're going to change it. They're going to have a discussion with him about it.
But
because I think ultimately at the end of the day, he is one of the most experienced drivers on the grid, along with Fernando Alonso. He should know that you can't just do that. And I think they're basically bringing him in and say, look, you should know this. If you're doing it, then the other drivers will be like, oh, you know what, it's just a slap on the wrist, it's just 50,000 euros. They want to get it, they're probably going to say to Lewis, like, look, don't do it again. We might have to give you a bit more of a bigger punishment, because ultimately we need to set a precedent. And realistically, you're not going to be bothered by it.
no.
I don't agree with them targeting him. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But I think they need to set a precedent somehow.
I would say, in response, it's now a proper debate, I like it. We have seen, even this season, precedents get changed after the fact, but no penalty being given for the prior incident. And I will use, and I know this might make me look biased as a Mercedes fan, but I will use the
Max Verstappen Singapore to Japan that George Russell got away with very heavily in, was it Qatar, where he sat in the...
How did he get... This is why. But maybe the Max incident, maybe the Perez incident, but Singapore to Japan, where Max stops in the pit lane, like, he should have got a penalty. Then the FAA said they tighten it up. Have they done it? No, but that's, I guess, by the by. That sort of thing, when Max clearly isn't being given that penalty after the fact, but then the FIA have come along and said they're going to tighten up the precedent. I don't see why the FIA have said we're going to review the penalty, which very much implies we're going to change the penalty. Or we're going to look into changing the penalty, where with the Max incident there was no I think looking at changing the penalty sort of thing.
No, but I think they're trying to learn, and it probably seems like they're just targeting Lewis. Which, to an extent, they are. But I want to see what they do with it first. Because if they're just going to sit him down and talk to him and be like, okay, what do you think we should do to stop this from happening in the future? Because realistically, you should not be doing this. You should, as the older drivers, they do have the responsibility to set an example. But I don't think they should be punished.
Yeah, no, because generally, you'll see, the younger drivers will definitely fall behind, Lewis, Fernando, them lot, and whatnot as well. So... I mean, like I said, we just have to wait and see what the FIA actually comes up with, if they're actually going to come up with something meaningful, and the big thing, whether they're actually going to follow through on it. Because obviously we've seen the FIA say, we're going to change this so and so and so, but it doesn't exactly work, or they don't follow through on it. But again, it's going to be an interesting one. Because like I said, it's like they say. They should target Lewis, but they shouldn't at the same time. It's a very contradicting thing.
I think it's the fact they said as a role model. If they hadn't given a reason, it's almost they've given too much detail, which has got them in hot water. If they just said, we don't think this punishment is harsh enough based on how dangerous it is, regardless of who the driver is, we're going to review it. It's the fact they've said because he's a role model to younger drivers, which very, very quickly becomes, you are targeting Lewis, or you seem to be targeting Lewis at least, because of his status in F1, which, while that is their intention and would likely have been their intention if they hadn't said it, you've made it very
public
knowledge rather than having that plausible ambiguity of, we're doing it, it's being done to Lewis. It might be being done because he's a role model status and all that, but it could be for any number of reasons. Personally, I'm just not in favour of how this incident is being revisited, where certain other incidents in the past have been not swept under the rug, but have been very cast in stone. We can't go back. We can't deal with this sort of thing.
Yeah, I think the difference is that Lewis was out the race.
And yeah, I think, and no, I guarantee. Yeah,
Like he got no penalty from
Yeah.
causing.
Context plays a massive role, and I understand. It's a bit iffy.
It's also I think it's because it's a health and safety thing.
Yeah.
If they just brought it up at the driver's briefing, that would have been so much better. So this is what happened. Lewis, you can't do this. None of you should be copying Lewis in a sense.
And in the future, we're going
to be giving out penalties for the next race.
Yeah, and we'll give out grid penalties and things like that.
Yeah.
That should have been the way they do it. That is the precedent they've set in the past. Not even in the past, less than a month ago, even. And yet they've completely upended it. And I do get the arguments. Maybe I don't necessarily completely agree with them, but I do get the arguments that some people say it does seem like they're targeting Lewis in particular.
I think they would have done the same if it was Alonso. That's my thing.
Yeah. And we'll maybe see at some point when another driver does it, what they do, and then obviously it will come
Hopefully
back
no
out.
one does it.
Yeah. Well, there's that Hamilton fans on Twitter were pointing at like Max in Italy crossing the track, and like I get that point. He wasn't really crossing the track. He was kind of just walking around his car kind of thing, and it's iffy. But it's just it's a really bad look.
Yeah.
That could have been dealt with far better. Well, that's fun. Right, other news. Lance Stroll has apologised for his actions in Qatar. We obviously discussed them last week about how he pushed his trainer. He went very Kimmy-esque in his interview, and he threw his steering wheel out the car. Has apologised. I think
he got
a written warning from the FIA. The FA.
I think ultimately it's been handled about as fairly as it could be.
He's obviously under a lot of pressure.
He is.
And I've heard that his dad may want a very quick exit from the sport if he was to quit.
Yeah.
Which is so, like, if that's true, why get involved in the sport? I honestly think that owners should not be allowed to have children in motorsport.
Yeah.
Unless you're like Enzo Ferrari, who obviously can't anymore. But
yeah, and like he's clearly under a lot of pressure. He's not performing at the level he expects to perform at. It does just seems to be going horrifically wrong for Lance Stroll. And is that his fault? To what extent is that his fault? We don't know. And I think probably dealt with the best way. I think he just wants the season to end as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And we should maybe stop being so harsh on him.
He should just go to ice hockey. He can be as violent as he wants there.
I think he'd
Canadian home sport.
I think he'd enjoy IndyCar.
Yeah, he can be a bit violent there as well.
They race in Canada. I think he'd
They
enjoy
race in Canada. Great.
Oh, we race in Canada in F1. I completely forgot about that. So it's the Canadian.
They race in Toronto.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right, and the final story, Bernie Ecclestone committed tax fraud.
That seems
That's
nice.
just Bernie Ecclestone.
Which I feel like is my first
That's not news anymore. That's just kind of what's happening with Bernie Ecclestone today.
I've just clocked there genuinely might be F1 fans these days that don't really know who Bernie Ecclestone is.
There's probably a lot of F1 fans now.
Yeah.
I would almost say it's almost like the majority of people might not.
Google him. It's not worth. That's a whole podcast for another time.
Bernie Ecclestone.
Bernie Ecclestone and his role in F1. Just Google it. And
His role in 2008 and Lewis winning the title.
Oh no! Right, I think that's coming to the end. We've discussed all the news, all the ways F1 could be made better. We'll be back next week to talk Austin,
Texas.
Have you seen the timings?
Yeah,
They're so late.
I'm so excited. It's gonna be so good. I like a late race.
Does anyone know what time FP2 ended last year? This is a very weird question, but
It was like 9:10.
okay.
Because the sprint race starts at midnight.
Our time.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
What?
No, it's 11.
I thought it was
Well, 11, but either way.
Oh, it was the end at midnight or something.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Either way, that's. But what the main thing? Do you remember last year, the Ferrari final lap as the sun was setting at the end of FP2?
Oh, I saw the footage this morning.
It was-
I've missed that.
And did you never see it last year?
No, I want it back.
Yeah, that's my point. I want an F1 race with that
But
weather.
it had the extra half an hour, didn't it? Because they were doing the tyre stuff for Pirelli.
So that actually could be when it ends. Oh, that's good. But it is a lot later this year. Right.
Well, qualifying's 10 till 11.
We'll run through the timings quickly so everyone knows when.
Yeah, okay, I got it on me anyway.
Yeah.
So, practice 1, 6:30 to 7:30. The Friday qualifying is at 10 p.m. Then, the sprint shooter, 6:30 p.m. on Saturday,
Okay.
followed by the sprint from 11 p.m. on Saturday, and obviously the race from 8 o'clock on Sunday in the
Oh,
evening.
that's such a nice hour for a race to be at. That's so dinner time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, dinner at the Clarendon. If you are listening now, come next Sunday from 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it should be a good race. Will Max win? Probably.
Yeah.
But will it be fun? I'm trying to look at the weather for Austin, see if it's going to rain.
Oh no, not the predictions.
Austin.
Wait, haven't we done predictions?
Yeah, we've done predictions.
Yeah.
And we
Oh
said
no,
it rained.
it's just sunny.
Out there.
Well, that's fun. Whoops. Oh, doesn't matter. Right, thank you to Will, thank you to Chinmay. I think we did well there. I think we have improved F1, and they should listen to all of our ideas and then give us all the control. I see no problem with this. Anyone see an issue?
No.
Great, we'll be in charge by
The
2026.
sprint race starts at the same time FP2 did last year, local time.
Oh, that could
So
be
we're
good.
about half an hour out.
No.
But are we later in the year than it was last year?
Ooh.
No, it's exactly the same weekend.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh well. All right, we'll get a podium celebration with the
with the sunset.
with the sunset.
Yeah.
That will look cool. I'm looking forward to it. Should be good. Right, we'll leave you here. Thank you to Will. Thank you to mate. Thank you for listening as well. And we'll be back, as we said, next week to talk all things Austin.